Well,
All
if
right.
you work in the CBD,
Which
we've
we do.
noticed
Yes.
that it's becoming a lot busier. I see people in the lifts. It is absolutely lovely to see. But with that comes, I suppose, some new challenges. Could we say that? And
Well, we've got to rediscover what's, work etiquette, I guess, haven't we?
I guess. So employers apparently are reporting an increase in the number of conduct issues occurring. So have people forgotten how to behave at work? Joydeep Hor from People and Culture Strategies joins us to tell us more. Joydeep, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about lazy dress code, dishes left in the sink, or is it something more significant?
It's all of the above. Good morning to you both. I think it's almost comical to be talking about this as a serious issue, but it is very real. And when we reflect on just what we've been doing and in the advice and support we've been providing to clients in the last couple of weeks, I can say hand on heart there are a couple of organisations who we've been working with for several years who've never presented to us with any real serious kind of conduct or behavioural issues within their workplace. And these organisations, for the first time, probably certainly recent history, but arguably even a longer period of history, are seeing some behavioural and conduct issues from members of their staff, often some quite senior members of their staff, that just wouldn't have figured on the radar of this kind of organisation pre-COVID. And it just begs the question that have people, as you say, forgotten what some of those appropriate workplace norms and boundaries are. And it's not surprising if they have forgotten, because it has been a long time for some organisations since they've actually brought people back and you're co-located and you're interacting not just for an hour or two with the separation of a screen and a microphone. You're there in person, and a lot of organisations are wanting to embrace that return through celebration. So there's a lot of incidents that are happening at welcome back drinks events and kick-on events after those drinks events. So it's almost like Christmas season.
So obviously, during COVID, those past 2 years, many businesses have encouraged working from home. Have then those employees become more selfish in their attitudes, and to the detriment of the business when they return to work, that concept of team has pretty much disappeared?
Yeah, I think we take for granted, and employers have taken for granted, that when a person works from home, a lot of things that would ordinarily happen for that person as part of their routine, as part of the way they interact with people, is very, very different. And I think employers have probably made the mistake of thinking that, well, we're still doing Zoom calls and Teams meetings and whatever else. We're still interacting, and we might be interacting for 70 or 80% of the day. So how is that really different to people interacting if they were co-located? It's hugely different. You don't have those corridor conversations. You don't have the observation of body language. You don't have the social interactions, the how was your weekend type conversations, all of those kinds of things. You don't have the morning teas to celebrate people's birthdays. You don't have the Friday night drinks. All of these things, and arguably some might say, well, these are peripheral to work, but they're more than peripheral. They're actually fundamental to collaboration in a lot of organisations, and they're what a lot of people look forward to. And so, is it about employees having become more selfish? I think certainly employees in a lot of instances have become more self-focused in terms of the way they manage their days. But in fairness, a lot of employers have probably encouraged that because of not wanting to alienate their workforce, understanding that they're limited in what they can do if they were at the workplace.
Yeah, I definitely get the sense in speaking with a lot of people out there that there is that just hesitancy on the part of employers. They feel like they don't have the power, for lack of a better word, to really impose expectations on their workforce now. Whether or not that will change, we will see. But as far as these issues you're talking about now that have reared their ugly heads since we've been coming back to work, what do? Do you just assume that we're adults and that these things will work themselves out, that everybody will find their groove once again? Or does something have to be done by employers?
I think that employers need to first and foremost acknowledge that this, if it's not already an issue, it certainly has the potential to be an issue. I do think that after several months, assuming there's no further disruption, these things will settle down. But there is a danger period now, I'd say probably for the next 2 to 4 months. Employers need to reaffirm the expectations they have of all of their people. in relation to appropriate standards of behaviour, the way they communicate. They need to call out that they understand that this is effectively a new way of working again for people, even though it is new to the extent that it hasn't been the case for 2 years, but it shouldn't be that new for a lot of people. They also need to understand that they may have hired a lot of new people in the last 2 years who have not had the opportunity to settle into an organisation and establish themselves and establish the relationships. All of these things are obvious, but the problem for employers is that they're assuming that they're obvious and not taking the things that they need to be doing the things they should be doing, taking those fundamental precautionary steps, reminders to their staff around appropriate behaviours, reminders to leaders as to what is expected of them in terms of enforcing might sound a bit harsh, but ensuring that people are behaving in the right way. A lot of the conduct issues, by the way, are also surfacing in the context of the way managers are giving feedback to team members, because all of a sudden those feedback conversations are happening in person. And a lot of organisations weren't even having a lot of these feedback conversations over the last 2 years. And then all of a sudden you're doing it in person. It's a lot more real. It's a lot more confrontational, potentially seen as adversarial. That's giving rise to a lot of grievances and complaints as well. So, look, I think it's great for employers that they're bringing people back. I think it's great for the economy and all of those kinds of things. But employers just need to be careful and can't keep their head in the sand and assume people know what the right thing is to do.
Yeah, I guess it's a matter of being considerate to your fellow work member, isn't it? And perhaps cleaning up after yourself. And I should note, actually, Joydeep, I think you've got the neatest bookcase I've ever seen behind you. I don't know if that reflects your your workplace attitude.
It says a lot about me, but that's a separate discussion.
Hey, Joydeep, you don't think that this is any cause for employers to say, don't bother coming into the office, it's just too hard basket?
I don't think this in and of itself will be enough for employers to change their mind, but I can certainly tell you there are a lot of senior executives I've had conversations with over the last week or so where they have openly said, geez, we didn't have to deal with this while people were working from home, and all of a sudden this is now chewing up a lot of our time and energy, and have we made a mistake in asking people to come back? So it's something that they're thinking about. I don't necessarily think it'll get to the point where they'll send people back to the home working situation, though.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, just added to that, so we are almost out of time, but also notice there's more and more commentary coming from some business leaders saying people at home, working from home, perhaps not as engaged with the business, and that's to the detriment if they want to actually increase their work prospects of climbing the corporate ladder.
That's right, and this brings it back to one of the more fundamental questions around if people are given the choice, they will have to make a number of personal decisions around their ambition and career aspirations and a whole heap of other things. It's an opportunity for a good conversation between diligent employers and their staff, and probably something that they would not have ordinarily talked about but for the pandemic. So some great opportunities for employers to re-engage with their people at this point in time.